Hello and welcome to the next video. This is another rapid game in my attempt to get back to 2000 rating. And well, I have to tell you in front that this is a game I played very bad, and this is why I lost. I don't have any justification, any explanation. Sometimes you just play poor chess, and this is something every chess player has to accept. Try to learn from your mistakes and just move on. So let's go to the game. He played e4. I went for d6 for the Philidor defense. He played d4. I played e5. He took the pawn, I took back, and we went right into the Philidor endgame. And actually, I like this position very much for black, because usually black doesn't have any weaknesses. Many of the moves are just natural developing moves. And in my experience so far, I had this position several times in my games, and I was mostly satisfied with the way I was handling these positions. It's not difficult to play for black. You just need to activate your pieces, to be careful not to leave any weaknesses, and you can have a very comfortable play. But like I said, in this game it was a different story. So he played knight to f3, hitting my pawn. I'm defending pawn with f6. And now he played bishop to c4, which is the best move, the most active square for the bishop. And now there are several ideas how to handle this bishop. Usually the king goes either to c7 at some point after c6 is played, or the king can go to e7 and then maybe challenge this bishop with bishop e6. So I decided to go for this second approach, and in order to do this I first need to develop my dark square bishop so that I don't block the bishop once the king is here on e7. And here I played a terrible move, which is so bad and so poor that it eventually cost me the game, but it's just bad chess. So I played bishop to d6. And of course the most natural, the most active move for this bishop is to play bishop to c5. The bishop is active, it's outside, and from this you really have a comfortable position. But here I decided to play bishop to d6, because I recalled that in some positions this bishop does belong to d6, because then you can remaneuver your knight, maybe to c5. This pawn is usually a weakness for white. As you can see, currently it's not even protected. So this knight on c5 can be a very active piece and so forth. But in this position it doesn't make any sense. You are just making an overgrown pawn out of your bishop. It's looking at the pawn which is already defended, and it's just a bad move on so many levels. But okay, this was played, and now he played bishop to e3. He's activating his bishop, and you can see now this is allowed because my bishop is not on c5. So my opponent immediately takes advantage of my mistake. But okay, I continued with the plan, so king to e7. He played knight to c3, a developing move. And now I need to play c6, because I need to dominate this knight. I don't want this knight to come to either d5 or b5, maybe with a check, maybe with some other threats, so I need to play this c6. But of course there is a drawback of this move c6, and this is that now this bishop is very weak. This bishop is no longer protected by the pawn, so it's only protected by the king. And you can see that the movement of this king is somewhat limited by this bishop, so the king cannot go to these squares, so now this becomes a real weakness. So I said in the beginning that usually in this kind of positions black doesn't have any weaknesses, but here, playing bad moves, I have created a weakness. So in this moment my opponent castles long, and he's attacking the bishop, so he's attacking my weakness already. I'm continuing with my plan, and I played bishop to e6, hitting this bishop, which is probably a most active white piece on the board. And here he plays a nice move, knight to h4. Now he's tempting me to take the undefended bishop, but of course this comes with a price. So if I would to take this bishop, then he can jump to f5 with check, and he's also hitting my poorly defended bishop. So in the next move he will just take the bishop either with the knight or with the rook, and he will completely penetrate my position. So this is why back here I didn't take the bishop, I didn't want him to penetrate. I just played g6, stopping the knight from coming to f5. And now my opponent took some time and decided to take the bishop, probably having the tactics in mind which is to come. So he took the bishop, I took back, and now he played g3. So the idea is to go with f4 and then maybe f5 with the check, so harassing my king, which is the only defender of this bishop. So this was the idea from the beginning, and I fell for this idea, as you will see. So now I decided to develop my pieces. You can see that my pieces are very bad, they are not developed, while all his pieces are very active. So I'm in a pretty bad shape, and most of this is because of this move, bishop to d6. So I played knight to d7 here, he went for f4. And here I made a losing blunder, so I was focusing on this f5 move, and I thought that I will be able to stop this move if I just add another controller to f5 square. But now the problem is that king doesn't have anywhere to go, so once the king is attacked, it will have to abandon the protection of the bishop, and then the bishop will fall. And this is what happened in the game. This is why this is a blunder, because this takes away this square for the king. So the better move here, and probably the only move, was king to e7, so protecting the bishop. But now, as you can see, I have a problem. I have a problem developing the knight, because after this pawn advances, then this h6 square will no longer be available for the development of my knight, and the king stands in the way of developing the knight. So bad position, but okay, playable, because this position is after all a slow position, so maybe I would have time to remaneuver the bishop, maybe to put the rook here on d8, and then maybe to move the king away and then develop the knight. It is a very slow plan, but it's achievable. Anyway, better than just losing the piece like I did in the game. So let's go back here. After f4 I played a losing blunder, this knight to e7, after which he just delivered check. I took the pawn, he took with the pawn, and again with the check. And now you can see that both of these knights restrict the movement of the king, so the king cannot move and defend the bishop at the same time. So I took the pawn with the knight, then he took my knight, and now when I take the knight, this bishop falls. So this is how the game went. I took the knight, he took the bishop, and okay, I could have resigned here. I played one more bad move, so rook a to d8, and now he doubled up the rooks, and now I cannot defend this knight, and if I move the knight, then I will lose the rook, so this is completely hopeless, and here I resigned the game. So a short game, only 18 moves. I play badly, but hopefully I will learn something from this game and take this knowledge and understanding to my next games. Thank you for watching. See you soon in the next video. Until then, cheers.